Hello, everyone. Welcome to Proficy 2025, our annual leadership strategy and product launch webinar series. My name is Alexis Murphy, and I will be your host today. On today's webinar, we'll be talking about the ways in which it continues to deliver innovation, supporting our customers' product optimization with Proficy 2025. You'll find out why analyst firms name us a leader in MES as we help manufacturers meet sustainability requirements, overcome supply chain disruptions, and converge OT/IT to fuel digital transformation. We'll talk about exciting new enhancements to our Proficy Smart Factory piece of the portfolio, like the ability to achieve faster time to value with new downtime widgets and activities operator to-do list widget as well for Operations Hub. The new GraphQL connector providing easy read-only access to plant apps process type data. How we're improving discrete manufacturing with new out-of-the-box capabilities like engineering change order to ensure accurate and approved changes to new and in-progress work orders, tool traceability, NCM extensions, the ability to define downgraded material, and more. And lastly, our new document management system available to store and retrieve documents mainly focused on discrete operator interfaces. So we'll go through all of this and more as our presenter takes us through today's presentation. So before we get into the fun stuff, I want to be sure to mention that today's event may include forward-looking statements. The information presented is intended to be an outline of general product direction, and it should not be relied on in making purchasing decisions. Now for some housekeeping. You should all see an interface with some buttons at the bottom of your screen. They look like the ones on the right side of the slide here. Please send any questions you have through the orange chat bubble button. Through the purple envelope button, you can contact our team. The blue paperclip button is our most important, as it's where you'll find relevant content and resources related to today's webinar. Through the orange person icon there, you can connect with today's presenter and Senior Director of Product Management, Joe Gerstel. If you need technical assistance, please reach out through the orange question mark button, though most issues can be resolved by just refreshing your browser. And lastly, please share your feedback. We have that pink checklist button where you can send us your challenges and initiatives. We're really using this information to build our products collaboratively with your insight, so we appreciate anything you can send along. Thanks. Now, I would like to introduce today's speaker, Joe Gerstel. He is the Senior Director of Product Management for the Smart Factory piece of the portfolio. Joe has worked in the software and manufacturing industries for more than 30 years, spending time in various roles, including engineering, sales, services, and product management for large global companies. He has partnered with hundreds of companies to improve their operation solutions and processes, spanning nearly every manufacturing industry, including food and beverage, aerospace, consumer packaged goods, and automotive. And with that, I will kick it over to Joe to take us through today's presentation. Take it away, Joe.
Thanks, Alexis. So welcome, everybody, to this webinar. We're going to talk today. First, I want to lay the groundwork and talk about Proficy and what Proficy is. So Proficy is really about a software suite that offers you a lot of capabilities that meet your manufacturing needs. It really handles anywhere from plant to enterprise scale, and we can do cloud native. We can also do it on-prem. Central management is a key component of some of the components of Proficy, and as we go further along, it'll be included in more and more of them. And then a lot of composable capabilities. What this means is you can actually build your own apps using the data that's in Proficy in very easy ways to do that. And in fact, I'll talk about some of those. It really allows for effective operations anywhere, at any time. So you can be on premise, you can be in a corporate office, you can even be working at home like I am today. So with that data that you gain from the various pieces of Proficy, regardless of the pieces that you're using, whether it be HMI SCADA, whether it be Operations Hub, Historian, or our Smart Factory tools, it's really about getting advisory operations and analytics for the core of the execution, which also we offer as part of our Proficy solution. One of the things that we want to point out and give to you is that our goal is to really help you manufacture most efficiently and most productively. And one of the things that is important to our world as we move forward is ESG reporting and sustainability goals. Really trying to capture some of that utility information. We won't talk a lot about that today, but you'll see that in upcoming presentations and webinars. So what is really kind of the parts and pieces that are offered in Proficy? I talked a minute ago about some of these. Let me just refresh. Production automation is all about HMI SCADA, and manufacturing execution is really about what you might hear us call Proficy Smart Factory. Also, might have heard us call Plant Apps in the past. Plant Apps is now combined with a couple of other pieces of software, including the industrial data management software and which not listed on the side, our visualization tool called Operations Hub. And then we will talk in a little bit of detail about some new AI capabilities that are built into Proficy Smart Factory. In addition, you can buy those actually AI capabilities outside of Smart Factory as well to use on either maybe an MES you already have or historian data or whatnot that you'll be able to take advantage of this capability and really dig into the analytics that you need. Let's talk quick about the industrial trends and challenges that we see out there. Things are still in a situation where we have a lot of fragmented and untapped data. What does that mean? Well, data is really in silos. You have your IT silos, you have your OT silos. Fortunately, that's starting to merge now, and you're going to be able to see more and more of this data together. And we'll talk about that as we go through this. The outdated information too, it's really, making decisions is really about having the right data at the right time to the right person, right? And some of the things we'll talk about today really show you how we expose that data to the right folks. Labor disruption has been something that's been happening ever since the pandemic and continues to happen. What we talk about there is really, it's hard to find labor, right? We know that finding labor is one thing, and then keeping that labor is another thing. And some of the tools that we offer actually provide a interface that users are familiar with, specifically a web interface. So if they're familiar with anything they use at home, maybe Amazon or other tools maybe they use at work, say Salesforce or something, what we've done is exposed our software on the web as well. So it makes them feel comfortable with using the software. So industrial technology and trends, we'll talk about these as we go through Proficy. And one of the things that I'll start with is in industrial Internet of Things and the ability for our platforms, Proficy platforms, to use the industrial Internet of Things type tools and types data. You might have also heard this called Industry 4.0, depending on the region that you're in. But the Smart Factory apps really plug into this data and allow you to use the industrial Internet of Things platforms that you might be already using, but also can use the Proficy ones that we offer. Digital transformation is still something that folks are still working on. There's a lot of folks that still use paper, and that limits you in the amount of analysis and activities you can do. It also introduces errors. But with Proficy, you have a really strong enabler via the software, the Proficy software itself. When we talk about Lean and Six Sigma, this is near and dear to our hearts. This is something that we take very seriously. And in fact, this week, we have a number of executive Kaizens going on right now to drill into things like quality, on-time delivery, and just overall improvements to our whole organization. And this software that we'll talk about allows you to get that data so you can perform your own lean activities. AI and predictive analytics, the data doesn't necessarily tell you the whole story without some analysis. And up until now, you've had to do a lot of that analysis yourself. The thing that Proficy brings into this analysis is the context, either from historian or it could be from MES. And we'll show you some ways that we're actually going to take advantage of that data and use some AI and ML technology to bring you more effective, in this case, downtime detection. So really excited about that. Cloud and edge, right? Where do you run this stuff? Well, with Proficy, you can run it either place you would like. So you can run it on premise, you could run it in your data center, you can run it on a cloud and we'll host that for you. So software as a service is something that we now offer, and we'll talk a little bit about that too. And then some things that we're working towards, this isn't really available yet. However, the data that we have can be fed into things like augmented and mixed reality. We've actually done some services project with this kind of data and use augmented reality to help the operators understand perhaps a remote person that is an expert can be brought in to help a person on the floor. And we've actually been able to take advantage of this. So what is the Proficy software suite? Well, when you talk about the industrial ecosystem, you've probably heard the term the Purdue model before. Well, this is representative of the Purdue model. So it starts down at level 0 through 2, and this is really where the automation occurs. And this is where the Proficy HMI SCADA comes into play, and somewhat the historian as well. Then you have the MES layer, which is where the Proficy software allows you to dive into the details about the execution. And this is where you can do things like work instructions. You can drive operators through their activities and help them collect the data that they need. Now, it could be automated data directly from the equipment via machine connectivity, or it could be manual data, or a combination of both, of course. And then at the ERP level, the level 4 is where you see ERPs and the PLMs and the various other systems that we might interface with. So in ERP, maybe you push your material definitions down. From the PLM, you might push your specifications down into the MES so that the operators and those using the systems, the supervisors, the quality technicians, the folks that own the products on the shop floor can take advantage of that information without having to go to the ERP and so forth. And then we have some tools. If you look on the right-hand side, you'll see some tools called Configuration Hub and some analytics, or CSense tool analytics. And these all bolt onto the various components throughout the Purdue model and allow you to do some deeper analytics and configuration in a single place through the Configuration Hub. So the capabilities that really are brought to bear vary based on the level that you're dealing with in the Purdue model. So efficiency, quality, the traceability and genealogy, the ability to know where your orders were running, the equipment, what person was running that order, and so forth. And of course, other raw materials that go into that order. And then production management, really driving into, hey, where's my order right now? And what position is it at? So I can tell my customer, this is when your order will be done, and provide a more accurate on-time delivery. Of course, collecting the data, we talked about that. Collecting and storing the data and contextualizing the data is another strong suit that Proficy brings to the table. When you talk about collecting data from equipment, this is something we're very good at and have been doing it for a long time. This allows you to do not just maintenance, for example, where you might want to have that historical data to see how a piece of equipment was operating, but also drives that data up into things like summaries and averages and special calculations that you might want to do on that data, maybe even combined with manual data that you input to the system. And then the various other elements to optimize and bring data into the system are also available via other components in Proficy. So let's talk about digital transformation. This is a topic we covered earlier, but I want to dive into this in more detail and talk about how important it is to transform your business into a digital business versus a paper-based business. The point of this really is that you can have all the data in the world, but if it's not digital, it's not as useful, not nearly as useful as it would be if it were in a digital format. And this is where Proficy is very powerful. As I mentioned before, it can easily connect to data, obviously stores that data, and then distributes through our messaging system across the various sites and internal to the sites. So you eliminate those gaps, the data gaps, and the inconsistencies that are introduced by a paper-based system, right? So if I have a paper-based system, I'm writing on a piece of paper, it gets transformed into a digital format by somebody keyboarding into the system. Many customers we still run a lot of their systems that way, and even putting data into Excel, which, think about it, if you're an operator entering data into your system and you don't know if you're in quality specifications or not, that's going to hinder your operations and prevent you from producing high quality product. And by the time that data gets into a digital format after it's transferred from the paper, that's way too late in the process to really be able to use that data effectively, to be more efficient, to get greater throughput, to reduce defects, and to hit your on-time delivery dates. So this is where digital transformation really comes into play. Now, where does all this data go? Well, this is what we're talking about, Proficy Smart Factory. It's a suite of tools that we've mentioned before that specifically when we start talking about coordinating the people, the processes, the materials, the products within your manufacturing facility, this is what we're talking about when we talk about Proficy Smart Factory, and adding that context of, hey, this is what you manufactured, this is who did it, this is what materials were put in, this is the quality of the material that were used, and the quality of the material that was output. And identifying all this data into your manufacturing system of record provides you a lot of value in near immediate time, right? So we can perform things like I'll show you in a minute, analytics on this kind of data to determine whether your downtimes are going to occur sooner than later. And all of this data can be implemented in, as I mentioned, in your factory. If you want to run on-prem, we have lots of customers that do that. Some run in the data center. Now that we have the ability to have these multiple connections, actual data connections, such as maybe the old days where you had a T1 line, now you can have fiber, and now you can have 5G even could handle the amounts of data that we're talking about. Therefore, you can have multiple connections and a data center. You don't have to worry about somebody digging up the T1 line in the back of your factory with a backhoe, but instead quickly switch over to a new form of transmitting that data. Again, be it fiber or T1 or whatever it might be, which not only does that let you add the software to your data center, but it enables us to offer you software as a service through this Proficy Smart Factory. What does the Proficy Smart Factory really do? Who cares about having Proficy Smart Factory and this information? Well, it really optimizes the production execution. It increases throughput and improves quality. It gives you the visibility that you need to see your production in real time and maintain the high levels of customer satisfaction. Like, for example, knowing what's on time, when your orders are on time, and so forth. So these are real numbers. Results are going to vary based on the customer, but it's not unusual to see a 20% efficiency improvement. That's not strange at all. And if you think about it, how that affects your actual profit and loss statement, obviously your profit increasing is a good thing. And having this data allows you to dynamically adjust the production and place the resources where they're needed. And then, of course, reduces waste, right? If you're producing higher quality material, higher quality output, you're going to have a lot less waste and scrap. And this is where you can start to reduce cost and identify things like improvements in quality and reduction in the amount of inventory you need to keep on the shop floor, just in case you need that inventory in the future. Now, that's all how it affects the profit and loss statement. But then there are things that aren't on the profit and loss statement that really the MES can help you with. And this is, again, where Proficy Smart Factory can provide a lot of value. Think about having the ability to reduce the amount of material you might have to recall in terms of perhaps a safety issue or some sort of problem with the material that was shipped out. We had one customer that was able to dramatically reduce the amount of recalled product. They actually produce dog food, and they were actually reduce that amount that they had to recall when they did have a quality problem that would have caused problems with their customers and their pets. And then, of course, as I mentioned, improving customer service and really being able to tell that customer, making that customer happy and satisfied with real-time information about what's on your shop floor and the visibility to all that stuff that's running through the shop floor, which you're making right now. And then another thing that's important is the ability to standardize operations from site to site. So once you get it right at one site, having this software at multiple sites allows you to standardize that those processes and procedures that you have implemented across all your sites, which is very valuable as well. Let's talk about drilling in and digitizing the shop floor. Trying to talk a little bit more about that digital transformation and how it impacts the shop floor and what you can actually do with that data, right? So the abilities in manufacturing that you can take advantage of with the Proficy Smart Factory are having, first of all, the right data to the right person at the right time. And this is through a web interface. So regardless of your assembling something, if you have a semi-continuous process, you can take advantage of the devices that you have on the shop floor. A lot of customers like to use mobile devices nowadays. And inside the applications are actually built-in abilities to use, say, the camera on the mobile device to do barcode scanning or taking pictures and attaching comments, even taking videos and attaching information to your process as you're going through. So imagine if an operator had some sort of downtime issue and the machine started making a strange noise near this downtime, but it doesn't make it all the time, right? Well, you can take a video of that and show it to a quality person or a maintenance person and help them understand what might be happening, providing you much better information and much more usable, and you can track it and historize that data. Obviously, managing orders and driving them through production, the ability to prioritize orders, maybe bump one up, maybe move one down based on what's happening on the shop floor, and having instant status. Knowing when a customer calls in and says, "Where's my order?" you can tell them exactly where it is. And obviously, you have the full history, especially important in more of a regulatory environments like food and beverage and CPG. The ability to have routes, which are the way that the product flows through your shop floor. We also call them production plans, depending on the type of manufacture you're doing, and collecting that bill of material data. So saying what goes into the product is one thing, but actually consuming it and being able to tell the ERP that, hey, I consume this, don't let anybody else use that material is really important. And you can do that in real time. Again, not something you could do with paper. Having the ability to have documents built into the system. You know, in the old days, still some folks out there today, they have binders of documents that are on the shop floor to help the operator do their job. But oftentimes these work instructions that are in the binders are out of date. Well, a digital system provides that data immediately and allows you to see that those work instructions in real time. And drive quality, of course, the ability to produce more high quality products is really important to our customers. We talked about genealogy traceability to know what went into your products, what raw materials, and even the quality of that raw material before it goes in, as well as quality of the finished goods as it comes out. And then managing all that non-conformance is another important aspect of the rework or maybe reclassifying product that was produced, maybe downgrading it to maybe didn't suit the need of the original quality specifications. Well, maybe there's another product that's similar to quality specifications that's a little bit less stringent, and you could actually use the system to downgrade your product and again reduce your waste because you're reusing that product. And then scheduling orders. We have a new software application as part of the Proficy family. This is all around scheduling and the ability to schedule your orders in a finite capacity scheduling plan and identify, hey, where can I most efficiently and most effectively use this data? There's a lot of customers that still use Excel to do that. We have an automated system that helps you do that scheduling. So as a planner, you're going to know a lot of things and you're very experienced in your planning role. Well, imagine if we could drill in some of that experience directly into a software package so you can reuse it and do your job more efficiently and effectively. We have one customer that's, they have a planner that is basically on call all the time to help the shop floor decide what orders to run next. And it's just the nature of their business. Well, the scheduling tool helps them do that more efficiently and effectively. And they're so excited by it and they're getting so much value out of using that scheduling system. Another great tool offered by Proficy. So, when we talk about Proficy Smart Factory, it mentions the cloud here, but this also applies to the on-premise and even data center, of course, components that you can run on-prem or via SaaS. And when we talk about business value, what this actually brings to the table through Proficy Smart Factory are things like integrated manufacturing suite that can handle a different types of manufacturing depending on what you're doing. So maybe your continuous process, you're making some sort of consumer packaged goods. Maybe you're a discrete environment where you're making assemblies, or you have a combination of both, which we do have customers that have both environments in their enterprise, and even some cases on the same facility. Because we have a whole bunch of out-of-the-box screens that are ready to go, you can be up and running really quickly with the software. So you don't have to start. Some vendors offer software that you have to kind of build your screens and build your applications. We don't do that, although you can if you want to do that. That's the extensible component that you see here on this slide, in that we provide a whole bunch of out-of-the-box screens that can be extended directly in that screen, or you can build your own screens from scratch using our visualization tool called Operations Hub. So that means that this really suits your needs and allows you to do personalization with the out-of-the-box screens and provides even custom logic hooks. What does that mean? That means that the screens that we provide, in the old days, you actually had to rewrite that screen if it didn't do what you needed it to do. Well, today we have these custom logic hooks, which, for example, take a button that is to complete an order, for example, right? If you wanted to complete that order, but you wanted to check something before the operator completed, maybe you want to check, maybe you have your own non-conformance system, you decided not to use ours, you could have the system go check that other non-conformance system without rewriting that screen directly in the software with the out-of-the-box screens. So you can put your own logic hooks right in there. You can enable those people that are more technical, as well as those people that are not. Because of our visualization tool, it allows you to build screens without writing any code. Now, we've just recently added the ability to do that, to write code if you want to. But again, the way that we do data binding allows you to do that without writing code in many cases. We have a lot of options for that in how you might want to engage in taking advantage of that. It's a very, very powerful system. Now, the other thing that's really important is we've been doing this a long time. And for 30 years, we've been providing best of practice software that allows Fortune 50 companies to use the software to get the most benefit out of the software. And we take those processes into the software as well. So we work with a lot of large companies and actually work with them to extend the software to make it useful for them, which also trickles out into other customers that are like them and can take advantage of those best practices that those companies are using. Now, when you look at it from a technical perspective, again, we offer this as cloud native software. So you can actually run on SaaS for a lower total cost of ownership. You can get up and running really quickly, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in another slide. Mention no code. I'll stress it again here that it's completely extensible through our Operations Hub visualization tool. Again, you can use code if you want to, but you don't have to. Now, some tech stacks out there that are new, some more and manufacturing software that might be new to the market might have the ability to have some great features and so forth, and great technology that they can take advantage of. But with Proficy, we actually offer a lot more features and new technology. So we kind of have both in that situation, where we have cloud native capabilities as well as deep, rich business capabilities as well. Now, when you start talking about the cloud, we can actually be always on and always ready. In fact, some components even run on premise as always on, which means you can upgrade the software in real time while the system is running without having to take it down. Certain components that applies to. And we're just getting better and better at this over time, which provides you with enterprise strength and support for hundreds of users at the same time because of the high availability and scalability we can build into the product. So our historian, for example, handles hundreds of millions of tasks on a single historian. It's extremely fast software. And then again, security is built in. This is very important to us. We have security checks all the way along the process as we build the software and deploy it, and really provides you confidence that your software is and your data is secure. Let's talk about the cloud in more detail and what we offer with Proficy Smart Factory, and what is actually offered now and will only improve and over time. We talked about always-on availability. What does that mean? Well, it's native high availability. We use some technology that allows you to take advantage of, that allows us actually on our SaaS platforms to take advantage of containerization, which means that we can perform zero-downtime upgrades for you and make sure the software is always up to date. Now, there are components you can run on-premise to do that as well, but I'm pointing out in the reality of SaaS and software as a service, we can actually offer that today without you having to worry about maintaining all of that. We'll take care of it for you. The ability to have multiple sites in the same system is another thing that Proficy Smart Factory will offer in this next release. And you can scale that. Obviously, if we have multiple sites running the same system, you need the ability to scale that and bring as many sites as you can on-prem. Now, there will be restrictions initially on how many sites you can have together, but that's really not something you need to worry about because it'll be handled for you by our software as a service team. It's agile. The financials of it are clear that you can reduce your operating expenses and your total cost of deployment and have a more predictable cash flow and lower upfront costs and so forth. So a really powerful option to run your software, to run your manufacturing facilities on the cloud with our software as a service platform. So let's dive into software as a service real quick and talk about one specific thing that we're offering as software as a service. And this is the ability to predict when your equipment is about to go down. What we do here is we actually look at the data that you've accumulated in your MES system, your Proficy Smart Factory system, and we're able to say, based on some machine learning algorithms, that we can tell that you might have a downtime coming. So what we'll do is we'll tell you, hey, there's a 72% chance that you're going to go down at this location for this reason, and allows you to find the true root cause of what's happening. Maybe your filler's about to go down, but really it's based on your pelletizer is the problem. So this is really exciting software that we're coming out with, a new feature available only via software as a service, and we're pretty excited about that capability. Now let's talk about why you should go to the cloud. Why are there reasons to do that, and what some of our customers have already found to be valuable. Obviously, we talked about cost reduction. This is the ability to lower your total cost of ownership and get up and running really fast. So that's faster time to value. It is highly available and highly scalable. As long as you have the communications infrastructure in place, you will continue to stay connected to your software as a service to our software as a service offering and be able to run your plants. And the high availability and highly scalable component always allows us to keep that software up to date and running, and allows you to get new updates in real time without stopping your system. It's highly secure. We, again, are very serious about security, and we built in zero trust so that to get the software up and running, it takes some opening of various specific elements that allow the software to work. And then we talked about this just the previous slide. We have some cloud-based analytics and predictive downtime in this case coming. So these are all great reasons to run on the cloud. Another reason that's not actually mentioned here is because of the vendor we use to support our cloud, they are a very green vendor, and they take advantage of a lot of unique and very excellent ways to reduce their footprint for energy. So you can actually take that into account and not have to be concerned about the energy that you're using, because we're trying to use as much renewable energy as we can and reduce the cost as much as we can based on using new technologies that allow you to keep the software as green as possible. Now, when we talk about some of the discrete capabilities that we have coming to market. There's some new stuff that allow you to track things like tools, so the operator knows what tool that they're going to use to perform a particular function. And you can track the calibration of those tools and track the usages and record the history. And so therefore, you always use a tool that's actually ready to go and calibrated. The ability to move work orders from one unit to another was something that we added recently. And then controlling processing quality there's a number of things here. So an engineering change process has been implemented in the software so that it drives the approvals of the various changes you might have to make to a given work order. Maybe there's some rework, maybe the new change came down from engineering on the fly, you want to change an order before it gets too far. You can do this now via a very staged process that allows approvals throughout the process. Doc management has been added to the system. So this is the ability to store documents that have to do with the operations that you're performing. And it allows you to have revisions on these documents. It allows you to have approvals on these documents to make sure that the right document is in place at the right time. Going back to that statement I made earlier about making sure the operator has the work instructions they need to do their job, the real work instructions, the actual ones that are up to date. We have some new capabilities in our non-conformance, and we continue to extend this ability, and gives you better visibility and allows you to do things like a soft hold, where maybe you want to continue to process that material that you're making and check on it at a later time to make sure that the non-conformance has either cleared itself, or if it hasn't, you can insert some rework operations to take care of that. And then the ability to downgrade material, which we hadn't had before, and now you can do that with the latest revision. Now, these are more detailed elements of the roadmap of Proficy's Plan Applications 2025, which again, remember, this is a component of Proficy Smart Factory, which also includes Historian and Operations Hub. I don't have those lists on here. Those are going to be talked about in other webinars, but I can talk specifically about the MES components. We talked about SaaS, a lot of things happening there in terms of how we can support that back end and support that zero downtime capability, the high availability, and the high scalability. Also rewritten the back end for the cloud with about over 90% reuse of the code that we had to pull it into containers and make it 64-bit, which again, customers have been asking for. In a future release, we'll also offer that on-prem as we move forward. And then really cool, we have the ability to support things like Python, AWS Lambda, and even as we get to Azure, so folks can run this on Azure if they want to, we can take advantage of Azure Step Functions as well. Now, this allows you to extend the system in a less database intrusive way. So you don't have to use things like stored procedures, but you can instead use new modern programming languages to do that. We have some backward compatible 64-bit Excel added. This is actually already available. It's been available for some time, and it does work with Office 365, as well as if you're using Office Online, you can actually use it in that version of Excel as well. We have some capabilities coming into the Autolog. For those of you that are not familiar with Proficy Smart Factory, Autolog is kind of a workhorse in the software, and it allows for really fast and easy ways to get up and running on quality and be able to see a lot of quality data at once. Very powerful tool, and we'll be adding more and more capabilities to that over time to replace what we had in what we call our thick client. We're moving some administrative capabilities to a new tool called Config Hub, which is the configuration tool for all of the Proficy tools. And as we go over time, if you're familiar with Planet Applications and Proficy Smart Factory, you know that one of the big tools that we use is called the administrator. This capability will ultimately be moving to Config Hub. We're taking a phased approach to this, and I'll talk about some of the stuff that we're going to offer in this first release of Configuration Hub for Proficy Smart Factory. Faster time to solutions. So we're going to have some new widgets that come out that you can actually use them directly in the visualization tool. So if you're not familiar with Operations Hub, our visualization tool, it is a kind of a blank canvas that you can write your own applications with. Some of the components in Proficy Smart Factory are more of a plug-in fashion, where they could not be connected directly to Operations Hub, but now some of them, and over time we'll include all of them, will be able to be connected directly to Operations Hub via the data binding capabilities that we have available in that tool, as well as the scripting. And then activities, this is another widget that will be coming forward. We use, underneath the covers, we use something called Kafka, which actually allows us to speed up the system and make sure the important updates, all the important updates are provided to all the users that are using the system without having to constantly pull the database. This is our messaging system, which is a very modern technology used for quite some time. And in addition to Kafka, we're going to expose those messages via MQTT as well, which allows you to get to the data a little more easier and directly through things like other tools that might be able to talk to MQTT, like direct development of your own applications or other automation type tools that are available on your system. GraphQL is a new technology. This is actually a technology invented by Facebook that provides a better way to get to the relationships within the system. And we're going to offer as part of the system, making it much easier to get to the data that is in the MES, allowing you to pull that data out and make your own reports and screens via this GraphQL technology. It can be used in something like Power BI, or we'll also, of course, have an Operations Hub connector that lets you connect to that GraphQL data very effectively and efficiently. We talked about some of this stuff already: engineering change process, tool tracking, better nonconformance, and document management. And then also this lot number generation, which is pretty cool. You won't have to change the internals of your system to do that. It'll be built in on top of it. And then I did already go through the predictive analytics that we're going to have available for the SaaS platform as well in terms of downtime. I'll give you a quick sneak peek of Operations Hub. This is a web-based tool versus what we have today. And it allows you to do, we're going to expose the material capability in here. You'll see that you can have materials and they're in a published state versus draft state. What does this mean? That means you can make changes to your materials without having to save them directly and instead publish them directly to the runtime system, which allows you to do your work in a little more controlled fashion. We'll have material variables, which are something that you can attach the variables directly to equipment. Materials and versus equipment, which we have today. Now, this will be available in some components of the software, not everything, but it will be, well, we're going to start to make this more and more available over time. And then we did talk about engineering change control, where you can say a particular material is managed via the ECO process versus not managed that way. So you can have your option of do it either way. So when we kind of put it all together and talk about what Proficy Smart Factory 2025 is going to offer us, it's the ability to improve scalability, a modernized backend, the ability to have some more administration and a better UX via our move to the Configuration Hub plugin platform. And then faster time to solution. We talked about the ability, the fact that we're going to have a lot of objects that are already ready for you to go. And those widgets that we're going to offer will make it easier for you to make a more consistent user experience for your customers. If you need to do that, again, a lot of it's available out of the box already. We talked about predictive analytics and the ability that that's coming. So all the benefits that you see here, true scale, reduction of administration, more out-of-the-box capabilities, document management, data management in terms of big scale. Again, we can handle 100 million historian tags. That's not a problem. And you're going to see that this is coming out really soon. We're targeting a summer release for this, and we're very excited to get it out the door and help you use the software and drive the right first time. So we really want to hear more from you and understand what your needs are, what your challenges are, so we can improve the software over time. Our team's really working hard to continue innovating and for you, our customers. And of course, we want your feedback. Helping us really helps you in the long run, because we can add more capability to the software and reduce the challenges that you have and minimize them across the manufacturing world. So you can use, you can get out your phone, you can grab this QR code, and this is how you can communicate with us easily. Also, the icons that Alexis talked about earlier at the beginning of this presentation that you can click on. There's a button right there you can click on to talk to me directly. So I'd love to hear from you. I'm very interested in what you all have to say. There's always some great ideas coming from our customer base. And if you'd like to, explore more about the Proficy portfolio, this QR code will help you do that as well.